Today on the podcast, I'm going to be talking about how to make your time with your baby or child, particularly with your toddler, a lot more enjoyable and eliminate a lot of the fussing, whining, tantrums, things like that before they even start. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Parenthood Prep, the only show that helps sleep-deprived parents and overwhelmed parents-to-be to successfully navigate those all-important early years with their baby, toddler, and child. If you're ready to provide the best care for your newborn, manage those toddler tantrums, and grow with your child, you're in the right place. Now, here's your host, baby and parenting expert, Devin Clement.
Hello, and welcome to Parenthood Prep. I'm feeling particularly well equipped to talk about caring for newborns today because I just got my first batch of bottle baby kittens for kitten season. I do fostering, so I have been, waking up every few hours around the clock to feed these little guys and take care of them. And it really reminds you of what it's like to be taking care of a little baby human, although they do eat a lot faster and you can leave them home alone. So that's a pretty strong benefit. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is how to just make your overall day and life and experience smoother and happier when you're dealing with a baby, a child, a toddler, a preschooler. Honestly, this even works on adults. And what I like to call this is treat your kid like a video game character. So, you know how in a basic video game where you have a character, they have like health, right? And you want them to have full health, but as different things happen, their health sort of ticks down. And you typically need to do whatever you need to do to replenish that health. So a game that I love and my family loves is The Legend of Zelda. So in that you have these hearts and you have to, replenish those hearts by finding them, collecting them, taking potions. In the latest versions, it's like making food and eating the food, but you want to replenish the hearts. And if you have full hearts, you're not going to be walking around looking for food, looking for potions, taking those things to replenish your hearts because they're all there. You're going to be doing other stuff. So what does that have to do with taking care of your baby or your child? Well, I'll tell you. Imagine that they have a bar on top of their head that shows their happiness, just like a health bar in a video game. And this health bar has 3 different colors. When it's full, it's green. It's in the green zone for a while, then it drops down. When it's in the middle, it's yellow. And when it drops all the way down, it's red. And that's when red means trouble. And as you're going through your day with your toddler or your baby or your kid or whatever, imagine this bar over the top of their head and then say, is the thing that we're currently doing or the thing that I'm offering them appropriate for where they are right now in their health bar? So I'll start with an example. I was at lunch at a restaurant with a friend of mine and her toddler, and he was about a year. And we had just ordered our food. And she was holding him on her lap. We had the high chair there, but he was sitting on her lap. He was like playing with the silverware, the napkins, touching stuff on the table, just having a great time. Happy to be on mom's lap, happy to be messing around with stuff, the whole thing. Then the waiter brings over some bread. We're like, great, bread. She starts feeding her son bread. He hadn't asked for it. It was just like, oh, here's some bread. Let me give some of this to him. And I said, stop. And she was like, what? Why? Like, he loves bread. I'm like, I know he loves bread. In about 10 minutes, our meals are going to arrive and you're going to have to put him in the high chair. And he's going to be pretty pissed about that because he's having a lot of fun right now sitting on your lap and playing with the silverware and things. And if you feed him all the bread now, not only are we going to have less bread and he's going to be more full, there's nothing that you're going to be able to give him to make the high chair a more positive experience. There's nothing you're going to be able to do to make that something that he wants to do. But if you save the bread and you give it to him when it's time to move him to the high chair, he's going to be so happy to be chomping on bread while he's sitting in the high chair, even though he's not on your lap anymore. And she was like, oh my God, yes, you're so right. I said, of course I am. I've been doing this for my entire life practically. But anyway, so in that moment when he was sitting on her lap, playing with the silverware, whatever, his bar over his head was green. It was green. There was no need to add things that were going to make him even happier. We want to save those things for when we need to utilize them. Now, I'm not suggesting that you make your entire relationship with your toddler transactional, but when you know that something is coming that you're going to need to create a positive association for that kiddo, you want to conserve those things and give them to him when he's in the yellow zone or the red zone, like when he has to sit in the high chair. And of course, the food came, she put him in the high chair, he started to fuss, she started giving him the bread, and he was thrilled. And she and I got to eat our meals, we got to talk, he got to pick at his bread, shove it in his mouth, make a mess, all the things he wanted to do. And it was perfect. So the same thing applies, for instance, if your child is, getting tired, like, okay, we're out and about. I know that when he starts to get cranky and ready for a nap, I'm going to have to hold him and carry him and all that. And that's going to make me tired and that's going to wear me down because he's heavy. I know that that's part of what I need to do. So when he's not that tired and he's got some energy and he's in the green zone and he wants to be picked up and carried, I'm going to say, no, you know what? Why don't you walk on your own now so that later when you start to get tired and I pick you up and carry you, that's going to be a more positive and pleasant experience for me. Plus, you'll be able to get some energy out, walk around, all that kind of stuff. Kids a lot of time are at their best in the morning. They're, in a good mood, especially if they've had a great night's sleep. You can usually get a lot out of your baby in the morning. So for instance, tummy time. A lot of babies really don't like doing tummy time. It's not fun for them. It's not enjoyable. And then it makes it not enjoyable for the parents. And if you're doing tummy time when your baby is in the yellow zone or the red zone because they're tired or they're hungry or they're cranky or it's just the end of the day, you're not going to have a very successful tummy time. They're going to be crying. They're going to be fussy. Everybody's going to be in a bad mood. So you do that sort of stuff first thing in the morning when you know that they have more green for you to work with, more happiness, more health, more energy for you to work with. So you think about those zones. When you have preschoolers or, older kids, they're great in the morning. They can entertain themselves. They can take care of themselves. They're a lot more independent than later in the afternoon as the day starts to wear on and everybody's cranky. So, first thing in the morning when you get up, you're not necessarily going to want to pull out the special toys, the Play-Doh, the water table, the videos. Like maybe they don't wake up in the morning and go straight to the TV first thing. Like maybe you save TV and videos for later in the day when they're in the yellow, when they're in the red. And this way, it's like, oh, this is a special treat. This is not something that I have been doing all day, including when I was green, so I'm not considering it a special treat anymore. Another thing to think about is if you ever have to, confine them in some way. So I worked for a family in Australia a bunch of years ago who had toddler twin boys. And sometimes with toddlers, especially with twins, you need to confine them a little bit. Like you need to go to the bathroom or you need to change one's diaper and you don't want the other one getting into trouble or breaking things or digging in the dirty diaper pail or whatever while you have one on the changing table because you can't rush and grab him the way you'd be able to if the other one was, in a safe situation. So what this mom did, it was so brilliant. She had the, playpen area for the boys. And in it, she put all of the super annoying, light up, electronic, musical, bleepy, bloopy, electronic annoying toys that went into the pen. And they didn't have any of those toys outside of the pen. So when they were outside of the pen, they were happy because they were free and they could, roam around and do whatever and climb up her leg and yada, yada. But then when one of them or both of them had to go into the pen, which they did not want to do, that bar dropped from green right down to yellow, could have gone all the way to red. But as soon as she put them in the pen, they saw all their electronic, annoying, bleepy, bloopy, light up music toys. And they were like, oh, hey, this is great. I love this. So you have to think about if you're going to give your kid an experience that's going to make them, drop into that yellow zone or that red zone, or they are just naturally over the course of the day dropping into that yellow zone or that red zone. what can you do to improve that situation? And you'll have a lot more tools at your disposal if you're not using them all up when they're green. So for instance, if all of those electronic bleepy bloopy toys had been available to them when they were free roaming in the living room, it would have been meaningless for them to have them in the pen, and the pen would have been a negative experience. But now it's like, okay, you have to do this thing that I know you're not going to like. I'm going to make it better for you. I'm going to make it more interesting for you. And isn't that what we all want in life? Like, how many times do you have to do a chore that you don't want to do or go to an appointment you don't want to go to? And then you get yourself a little treat after because it just makes the whole experience better. And you want to do that for your kids as well. So just, have that in the back of your mind. What is their bar? What color is it right now? Is the thing that I'm offering them going to make it better, going to make it worse? Or am I just wasting my resources on a kid who does not need a happiness replenishment right now? Eventually, thinking like this will become second nature. You won't even realize you're doing it, but you will realize how much smoother and happier you and your child are at times of the day that used to really, really suck. If you enjoyed today's show and don't want to worry about missing an episode, you can follow the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you could share the podcast with others who you think would benefit and leave a rating and review to let me know what you think. It doesn't have to be a 5-star rating, although I sure hope you love the show. I want your honest feedback so I can create an awesome podcast that provides tons of value. Visit happyfamilyafter.com/podcast launch for step-by-step instructions on how to follow, rate, and review.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Parenthood Prep. If you want to learn more about the services Devin offers, as well as access her free monthly newborn care webinars, head on over to www.happyfamilyafter.com.